guys, it's your girl from Philly. Welcome to another episode of Handcrafted Wines, where we make great wine from home the fun and easy way. Before we get started, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any episodes.
I'm stuck in a cloud, drifting away to get out.
In today's episode, we're going to be making carrot cake wine or pineapple carrot wine, whichever one you prefer. Our ingredients are 1.5 pounds of shredded carrots, 1.5 pounds of diced pineapple, 1/2 cup of golden raisins, 2 cups of loosely packed brown sugar. In case we needed, another 1 cup of white sugar. And to spice up our carrot cake wine, we have 2 cinnamon sticks, 1 vanilla bean cut in half and split down the middle, 2 star anise pods, and down in here we have 6 cloves as well. Along with that, we have our usual players, which is our pectic enzyme, our acid blend, our dynamic duo, which is our yeast nutrient and our yeast energizer, our powdered tannin, and today we're using Red Star Premier Rouge yeast as our yeast. Okay, let's get started. Now, everything I have here, of course, has been washed and sanitized, but I'm going to give our fermenter a quick blitz with Star San solution. And then we're going to start by adding our brown sugar and dissolving it with a little bit of hot water. Let me get my small spoon. Now I'm starting off with the brown sugar, but just in case our specific gravity reading is pretty low, I'm going to make sure that we have a little bit more sugar on hand to raise it to the correct gravity. Let's see if I can pour this in. Whoop. Oh, yes, pouring in fine. It spilled a little bit, but that's okay. All right, we're going to add just a little bit of hot water to this, just so we can dissolve the sugar. Not much. And I'm going to get my large stirring spoon. Got brown sugar everywhere. And something tells me we are going to need that additional 1 cup of sugar. But we'll see. Our pineapples have sugars in them, and our raisins do, but our carrots don't have a lot of sugar. Let's move this over a little bit. I still feel a lot of grit at the bottom of the vessel. It's starting to dissolve. So it's getting there. Take a second to clean the rest of this brown sugar off the table. There we go. All right, that's mostly dissolved now. I see a little bit of crystals on the side of the vessel, but I won't worry about that right now. Now we're going to add our first straining bag. It's a brand new bag, but it has been washed, and I'm going to sanitize it again with some Star San solution. Now the first ingredients I like to add would be our spices and our raisins. I think it's a good idea for them to be at the bottom of the vessel. For one, they'll get a little bit of this hot water that I'm going to add in that loosely. So, and two, they'll be at the bottom of the fermentation process, which I like. So we have 2 cinnamon sticks. We have 1 vanilla bean that has been cut in half and split down the middle. I did not scrape the vanilla seeds off of it from the pod. They're going to loosen up during the fermentation process. We have 2 star anise pods. 1, 2. And we have our 6 cloves. Now these cloves are going to swell up and they're going to add a lot of punch to our carrot cake wine. 1 more clove. Okay. Now to this, I'm going to add our raisins. I didn't chop our raisins. Our pectic enzyme is going to help to break these down. Okay. And to that, I'm going to add a little bit more hot water just so our spices get some heat. Now I'm going to add our shredded carrot. Now you can shred these with a box grater. I do have a box grater, and I would shred it on the fine end of the box grater if you use the box grater, but for time's sake, I use the shredding blade on my food processor, and it made it a very fine grate. Now, most recipes that I've found for carrot wine called for boiling the carrots first. And I said it before, I like to use either fresh or frozen fruits and vegetables. I prefer not to cook them, but if you'd like to cook yours first, by all means, go ahead. I feel like the beta carotene in the raw carrot is going to give us really good color, and I'd like to get some of that carrot freshness in there. If you see here, you see those shredded pieces, that's what I did with the box grater. And I gave up on that pretty quickly. All right, we're about halfway there. I just want to get most of this carrot out of the bowl before we add our pineapple. There we go. And I'm going to rinse my spoon a little bit with this hot water. Just to clear it. Now we have plenty of room in our fermenter, so we have plenty of room for our pineapple. And it's just 1.5 pounds. I typically use 3 pounds of fruit whenever I use fruit of one type. But since we're using 2 different ingredients, of course I dropped the pineapple. You know it's not my show unless I'm dropping some fruit. Okay. So with this being 2 different ingredients, I chose to do 1.5 pounds each. If you were making 5 gallons, of course, you'd multiply that by 5. And if you want a little bit more intense fruit and intense carrot, you can always add more. The recommended amount of fruit is 3 to 5 pounds per gallon. I usually stick at 3, and I'm pretty satisfied with 3. But if you want more of a fruity batch, feel free to add 5 pounds of fruit. And this 1.5 pound came from one pineapple. It was a small pineapple, so if you were to use a larger one, you would probably get a little bit more out of it. All right, we're more than halfway through with the pineapple. Okay, that was easy. And they both fit into one straining bag with no problem. Now I'm going to add our room temperature water. To raise it to level. Oh, the color is really, the carrot kind of took over. Okay. Move our fruit down a little bit. Mix things around. Except for the brown sugar at the bottom, the color is basically orange right now. I'm very curious to see what happens after fermentation. Because I have things like vanilla in here, I want to give it a second tie. Those vanilla beans are going to eventually break free in that pod, so we don't want them creeping into the batch. Oh, I didn't do anything at all there. There we go. Okay, so we have a double tie on that. I'm going to use our smaller spoon to press it down some. And I'm going to stir up some of that sugar. Interesting enough, the brown sugar is it's kind of stubborn. It's not trying to incorporate very easily. The reason why I chose brown sugar for this recipe is because, of course, with carrot cake, you would be using brown sugar, and the molasses would give it a little bit more richness. Okay. Now we have the molasses all stirred up. I'm sorry, the brown sugar all stirred up. Now we're going to add our usual players, which is going to be our acid blend, our pectic enzyme. This is our acid blend. Our dynamic duo, which is our yeast nutrient and yeast energizer. I'm going to dissolve our tannin in a little bit of hot water. Just enough to dissolve it all the way. There's a few clumps at the bottom. Now, of course, you could always use black tea for your tannin if you choose to. And you would just take the tea bag and steep it in maybe 3 or 4 ounces of hot water until you got all of the tea that you could steep out of it. All right, so it looks like we're completely dissolved there. There was a little bit left, but not a lot, enough for me to add more water. Trying to get the last bit of tannin off of the spoon. It's being stubborn. Okay. I'm not going to add any more water to the batch. I'm not quite sure how the carrot and pineapple is going to react during fermentation, and I don't want it to blow out. So I just want to keep it where it is right now. And let's see what our hydrometer reading is. Here's my beaker. And my turkey baster. So we're going to get out 250 milliliters of our liquid. I strongly suspect that we're going to need some of the white sugar just to bring the reading to where we'd like it to be, but we'll find out soon. The tannin really changed the color. It changed it from that very pretty bright orange color to a very deep brown color. But as we know, that's not going to always be the case. After fermentation, the tannin, after it does its job, will fall to the bottom. Yep, we're at 250. Will fall to the bottom, and it will help restore the color back to our batch. Okay. I do think we're going to add more sugar. So our reading is oh no, actually we don't have to add any more sugar. Our reading is 1 point, let me test that again. Kind of lost track of where that was. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's right in between the red line and the gray line. So let's see where that is. $1.060. Well, yeah, we do have to add more sugar. That's a low ABV. That's going to take us to, where's the percentage? Oh yeah, that's a low ABV. So we have to add a little bit more. And I'm going to try with the whole 1 cup and see what happens. If we have to add a little bit more water, we can. We do have some more room for that. Oh, I don't know if we will after we add the sugar though. We'll see. Maybe I'll do half of this first and see where we are. Now, this is going to take a little time to stir just because this is room temperature now. What made me think of this idea was it's springtime coming, and even though it's still March, and the groundhog did see his shadow, my mind is on spring. I've seen some daffodils trying to push through, and I've seen some cherry blossoms beginning to bud on the trees. So I want to think spring right now, and carrot cake is one of those spring desserts that I really, really enjoy. The only thing this will be missing is a cream cheese frosting. I still feel some granules at the bottom. A few crystals. But I think this is going to have like a bit of a spicy taste to it. But I'm hoping the pineapple comes through really well. I'm pretty sure the carrot will. We're also missing the nuts, but we don't ever want to put nuts inside of our wine. The oils would be a disaster. Okay. Yeah, we're nice and dissolved now. So I'm going to do one more hydrometer reading, and then if I need that last half cup, I'll add it. That was a lazy spritz. There we go. It smells really, really good. It smells spicy. Even though we haven't had much time for our spices to dissolve in it, they're starting to kick up. I definitely smell some clove. And that's interesting because when I made the spice apple cider, I didn't smell the spices in it actually until after it fermented for about a week. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so where it was in between the gray area, which would have been more like the beer area, and the red area, now it's between the red and the blue area. And it's closely at the bottom of the red area. So let's see what that reading is. 1.090. So that 1.090 is going to give us, the percentage always evades me on here. It would give us 12 to 13%. So I'm going to say with the pineapple that we have in here, it's going to release a little bit more sugar. I'm going to say more like a 13% wine, but we'll see. And I'm glad I didn't have to add a lot more water in here because I really don't know how volatile this batch is going to be. Okay, so the only thing we need now, we need to add our yeast. I always do this. Okay, I'm going to move the bag over a little bit just so I have room to put the yeast. And we're using Premier Rouge, which means it has a higher potential alcohol. It can go, I believe, Premier Rouge, I could be wrong, but I believe it can go up to 16%, something like that. 16, yeah, I think it's 16% that Premier Rouge goes to. So if there's a potential for more alcohol, this yeast will make it happen. I'm just moving it off of the bag. Stir it around gently, get it off the spoon. It will do more use in the batch than it will on the spoon. Okay, I got it all off. And I see a little bit of hydration. I don't see a lot of activity with the yeast yet, but that's okay. I get so used to Premier Classique being such an active yeast. And I had one comment, why do I just have recipe videos right now? Why don't I have any tasting videos? Well, in all fairness, I want the wines that we taste on the channel to be wines that we made on the channel. So I want to wait until we actually have wines that are aged enough for us to taste them here. I could always take batches I've made off of the show and use them as tasting videos, but it really doesn't make sense because you didn't see that wine being made. So we'll be making tasting videos. I would say maybe in another 2 months, we'll have our first set of tasting videos. And I might be able to invite some company over so they can taste it with me. So we're adding our lid with our drilled hole and grommet. And we're adding our airlock with star sand added to it. Adding the star sand and just spraying a little bit on the end of the airlock helps it go through the grommet without pushing it in. I think it was on my last episode or the one before then, my grommet actually went inside because the airlock was really, really dry. So this helps it go in without being dry. All right, so we have a brand new experiment. We have our carrot cake wine, which again was our grated carrots, fresh pineapple, golden raisins, brown sugar, a little bit of white sugar, and our spices are star anise, cinnamon, cloves, and one vanilla bean that's been split down the middle and cut in half. So let's see how this turns out. I'll be stirring it every single day for the next 7 days. And I'll be racking it in about 15 days, depending on how quickly this looks like it's ready. If it's still fermenting in that time, I'll give it some more time. It has a lot of stuff going on with it. But typically, I usually like to start racking in 15 days. Some people do it in 7. I do mine in 15. And then we will see where it is in 3 months. We'll do a quick taste and see where it is. At 6 months, it'll be wine, or it should be wine in 6 months. In 1 year, it should be really good wine. And with something that is so spice heavy, I may just keep some bottles around just to see what they're like in a couple of years. We'll see. All right. Well, that's all I have for today. I want to thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for joining me at Handcrafted Wines. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, buy your own equipment. If you haven't purchased your equipment already, you can do so. I have the links in the description of all the items that you would use in order to make your wine for the very first time. And if you purchase them from my link, I get a little bit commission, so I appreciate it if you do. Tell all your friends and have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.